Who is Sedna, the Inuit goddess, whose myth speaks of betrayal and transformation? Hi, I'm Erica Beach, and welcome to my Libra Corner. Today, I'm talking about the dwarf planet Sedna, and I'm uploading my presentation that I did with Nightlight Astrology. So if you're interested, stay with me, grab a chart, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Today we will be talking about Sedna, and I am not so sure how many people have heard of her. She's definitely so very dear to my heart. I've been researching her for about 2 years now, I would say. So a little bit about this talk. I'm going to just give a little Sedna introduction. We're going to go over her history and astronomy and discovery. I'm just going to go over a little bit on that because I feel that there's other people that have gone over it that can go a lot deeper on the astronomy. I'm not an astronomer, but I'm going to give you just very little details about her astronomy and history. We're going to go over her myth, legend, story, folklore, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go over her discovery chart and her archetypes. And there's so many archetypes that we could see within her story and myth, but I'm going to just cover about 4 or 5 of them where we see the common themes that we're going to see in the chart delineation towards and the second half of the presentation. So they're going to be more like the common ones with these charts. But again, there's so many more archetypes, so many more different things for her, about her that we're going to see. And then we're going to be going over, I am in the way here. Let me move myself. We're going to be going over what's going on with our oceans. We're going to talk about some ships and some submersibles. And then we're going to talk about a little something I've been writing about. It's not out yet, but A Tale of a Whale. More about oceans, more about the marine life, the environment, and taking care of our environment. But I'm seeing it's beyond that. It is not just, it's beyond the oceans. We're seeing it in music. We're going to look at some charts of some music. In sports, of course, I have to throw in sports. I am a huge sports fanatic, specifically football, but there's no football in this one. And lastly, we're going to close with Sedna and Gemini, which is where she's at now. She's at 0 degrees Gemini. So any Geminis out there, she's coming for you. No, I'm kidding. She's very, very slow moving. So, but if you have anything around 0 degrees Gemini, that's where she's at. She's going to be speaking at that degree. And so I'm going to look at a little bit more about climate change. How does Sedna relate to climate change, the bigger picture, and looking forward? So that's a little bit about this talk. So it's been about 20 years since her discovery. If you can see right here, this is the symbols for Sedna. Kind of looks like a boat, I think. And it also kind of looks a little bit like a half Saturn. And there's like a little circular, to me, there's like this spiritual circular component there. So that was really cool. And then, but yeah, she was discovered in 2003. So she's going to be 21 years old this year. So happy birthday. I'll talk about a little bit more on her birthday. But Sedna is a female sea spirit from the Inuit culture and Native American mythology, legends, folklore, and or stories. And so her myth could vary between cultures in regards to Alaska, Canada, and the Arctic in Greenland. And so if you've read her myth or legend, it's very different. There's not very different. They're different stories, but they all kind of have the same archetype, the same kind of themes within them. And so I'm going to be telling you one of them. My favorite, I think that when people are teaching Sedna, we all seem to teach our favorite. And they all have the most common themes. So you can always choose to read your own and, give and take whatever you want from each story. And so in the Inuit culture, Sedna is told to children. And as Demetra George has said, you don't read stories, you tell them. And specifically in the Inuit culture, they tell them. And so I'm going to tell you guys her story best way possible. It's not going to be like Once Upon a Time because I'm going to just do it from my head. And if you want to follow along, you can put on the closed captions, but this is how they do it. And in Greenland, where this story is her main story is from, in the Arctic. She lives at the bottom of the ocean, and so other names that she's known by is the goddess of the sea, because she obviously, like I just said, she lives at the bottom of the Arctic Ocean in the coldest part of the oceans. She's also known as the mother of the sea, and or the mistress of the sea. And across the Arctic exists a great number of different names for the legendary figure, including Talilayo, excuse me, which is known as the one down at the sea bottom, and Nuliayuk, which is the mother of all beasts. And everything about her voice wants to be known, like I said, like by naming her, it was very, very, her voice wanted to be known. Her events, are very, very dramatic. There's a lot of firsts with Sedna, and she's very active, like I say, when you hear her. And so after this talk, you're gonna know Sedna, and I believe Sedna will be speaking to you. I know she's been speaking this morning, to a lot of us already, and she will be speaking. She speaks daily, with the moon. So if the moon, like whenever I see something in Living Myth, again, Demetra George talks about living the myth. So finding the archetypes within the myth. And now that I allowed her in my life, I see her everywhere. I see her and as you can see with all the charts and what we're going to be talking about, you're going to see that I'm like, oh wow, you do see her everywhere. And so now you guys are going to see her, and just her voice is going to start to speak. In the past, she's known as to be a little bit more naughty, I should say, or she not naughty. Um, she can be mean. She can be very mean if you're not listening to her, especially nature. Especially nature. When you're seeing her work, when she's active, and when she's active in a chart. She's talking to a planet. You can definitely see her. So where is Sedna at the moment? Again, excuse me. She is a dwarf planet, and um, she's at zero Gemini. And a lot of the big collective events that we have all been seeing in regards to Sedna have started since last year. She's been speaking to us for quite some time, because she's been, if we all know, Pluto's at zero Aquarius, or one. Is it at zero or one? Oh, zero, because I think it's retro. I can't remember. My brain's just everywhere right now. But it's been, so Sedna and Pluto have been dancing. They've been talking to each other. They're in a trine, as well as she was last year. In the last couple of years, she's been speaking with Saturn. Saturn's been at the earlier degrees of Pisces, where we know it's a mutable sign. It's a double body sign. And so is Gemini. So there's been some restructuring, some transformations of certain aspects, that we've all had to look at, whether it's collectively or personally. But since last year, June 15th, 2023, that is the day Sedna entered Gemini. She was in Taurus for many, many years. As you can see, she's a very, very slow planet. And she stayed in Gemini last year until September 2nd. So she was there for a little bit, kind of giving us a little bit of like a little taste of what's happening. And this year, in April, she went back into Gemini. So that's since April, I believe it was April 21st or 24th. I can't remember. I think it was the 21st when she went back into Gemini. So she's been in Gemini, and I think she is going to be there now forever, but she's going to zip through Gemini. And on July 18th, she will shift to 1 degree Gemini. So because of her slow movement, she moves 1 degree a year. Um, she's very slow. So whenever she shifts degrees, whether it's from 0 to 1, or if she stations, or if she's shifting signs, that's when you're seeing her the most active in like anything. Again, you do see her active daily with the moon. So if you're like, look, you saw something, you're like, oh, I wonder if that's Sedna's voice. Look at the timestamp of that chart of that moment, and and see where she's at. And every single time I'm like, there you go, the moon's trining Sedna or moon's conjunct Sedna, something like that. So, um, yeah. And so if you were born before 1968, you have it you have a Sedna in Aries. And if you were born after 1968, you have it in Taurus. However, it retrogrades once a year for about 6 months. So in between 1968 and 69, you can also have Sedna in either or at the end degree. So you should check if you were born in 68 or 69, because it could be those that year you have it at an anaretic degree at towards the end or at the beginning of the sign. So we have the new Gemini babies. This as of last year, from if they were born September through August or September, they have Sedna and Gemini. And so if they were born after April, then they also have Sedna and Gemini. So we have our new Sedna and Gemini babies. And then here you see a three pictures. This is the discovery of Sedna. This is when they saw her for the first time. And you could see the little arrow pointing how tiny that little thing is. That's Sedna. She's way far. She's really, really far. And I will show you in another slide, but she is on her discovery date. But you can see actually right down the bottom, November 14th, 2003 at 6:33, 6:32 Universal Time. That's when the um Astrological Institute Union, who names all the planets, they registered it. So that was the registered time. But Sedna again was discovered on November 14th, 2003, and at Palomar Mountain, California, which is here in San Diego. I am in Southern California here in Marietta Temecula area, and it's right. You can see this little observatory. This is one little synchronicity. This little observatory, you can see it from my house. I don't even have to go leave my house. I just go through, look out the window, and I can see the observatory just because of where my house is located. I can see that every single day. I see the observatory. So after I had already been researching her, I was like, holy cow, I could see that from my house. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, well, that's crazy. But I just found it very, very like synchronistic. And I'm like, maybe it's a coincidence. Okay. But Sedna was discovered by Mike Brown from Caltech, Chad Trujillo from the Gemini Observatory, and David Rabanowitz from Yale. And again, Caltech is in Pasadena. However, the Palomar Mountain Observatory is owned by Caltech. So past researchers have been Karen Hamaker-Zondag and Barbara Shermer. Barbara Shermer passed away in 2014, but she is someone who studied her very deeply. Her website is still up. And then most of us know Karen Hamaker-Zondag. She's done a great, amazing job at researching her. She's done several presentations on her. And she also wrote a book, but she wrote it in Dutch, so I haven't read it. And so one of the, and again, one of the things I told you that's very, very about her voice, that's very, very strong, is that the naming of Sedna was very significant. It was something that was done that was out of the norm. And normally, when astronomers find a planet or discover a planet, they do their research and then they get a number for it, a code. And this time, the day they found her, they discovered her. They just decided to go into the books and like, what are we going to name her? And because usually they look at myth, what's going on in the collective as to like what or where she's at, how they're going to name her, they went straight to the books and they're like, where is the coldest place in this place? Because Sedna was discovered in the farthest most distant part of our solar system. And one of the things is that it gave astronomers and us humans, us, that there is life beyond all these the Kuiper Belt, beyond Pluto, beyond there was doubts that the Oort cloud existed, which is like a very distant area. And when they discovered Sedna was at the very beginning. And I'm going to show you a little picture I drew, not drew, but like I guess I did. It's not to scale, but to show you how far she is. And so they found her right at the inside of the inner Oort cloud. So it gave people hope that there is so much more beyond. So there again, something that was kind of just very striking. And so they just named her Sedna. They named her, and when they presented it to her, they still didn't have a code, which is apparently illegal. I don't say illegal, but it's there could be penalties or something. And so what happened is they just said, we're naming her Sedna. And the AIU just said, or AUI, sorry, or AIU, yeah, sorry, said, okay, fine, we're gonna keep it, which was kind of, interesting. And so then they also wrote to the union that from now on, anything that is found by the Oort cloud or beyond the Oort cloud, they were going to name them by Arctic goddesses and gods and figures, because of how cold that area is. And so again, the way she was named was kind of like out of the ordinary. And I don't know if any of you guys are Big Bang Theory fans. I am. I love Big Bang Theory. So if you're not, disregard this message. But if you are, go ahead and watch the Comet Polarization. It's season 11, episode 21. It is hilarious because it starts right away with like them. Penny discovers a planet, and one's an astrophysicist, and they're all researchers, and they find a planet, and she's like, I found it. And then they just named her one day. They're like, yeah, we're gonna name her this. And I'm like, bet you that's how Sedna was named. Like, this is how I picture it. So if you have time sometime, this is something cool to look at. Again, the Comet Polarization, season 1, episode 21. All right. And so this is my little I guess drawing I did that's not to scale, but Sedna's orbit, something else that's very striking is her orbit is very, very oval. And if you guys can see, it looks very much like Chiron's orbit. So if you to me, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a healing, wounding type of feel that is going to be very similar to Chiron. Um, and so right here, this outer little squiggly area, that's the Oort cloud. So when they discovered Sedna, she was right here, right inside. I hope you guys can see this, but right inside of the Oort cloud. And so that's why she was never discovered, because she was super, super far. And so when she was here, that was when technically Sedna was around Capricorn and Scorpio, which is, probably the two darkest parts of the zodiac. When we're talking again about light. But Sedna, when she was discovered, she was about here. And this is Earth, the worst planet, in my opinion, I think. So if you have Earth as in your chart, I think I'm sorry for you. But no, and to be real, this is Earth, obviously. And I wanted to put Pluto because obviously Pluto has been one of the most distant planets that we've discovered, and Sedna's 3 times farther away than Pluto is. So and also Sedna is a 3/4 size of the size of Pluto, so she is smaller. And again, the Oort cloud was said that its issues in a collective way. So anything that is found way beyond there is all issues within the collective, and things that are out of control of man, earth, nature, the cosmos. And again, these are all movements in the collective unconscious, which Carl Jung often referred to. And I also want to put, and again, this is not up to scale, so don't come for me on this, what do you call this, drawing. But one of the most interesting things that they found is that they were questioning if there was a moon on Sedna. There's a lot of hypothetical things, whether there is a moon on Sedna or not. At the moment, there is no moon on Sedna. They can't confirm it. It could be that it's very, very dark. And so when she's rotating, she's not showing her light. Pluto rotates about once every 6 days, and Sedna's rotating about once every 20 days. Measurements are give and take, but she's rotating about 20 days. And so, they don't see a moon, but there is. And so again, no moon on Sedna. I think it could be it's very relevant to her myth. And the Venus Mars signature, we're gonna go look at the day she was discovered or the day she was announced in March of 2004. Venus and Mars were visible in the sky. So that was just something. And so when she was discovered, the tsunami occurred in 2004, which we know is in the Indian Ocean. It was an earthquake out in the Indian Ocean that just devastated that area, and there was loss of thousands of people. And then in 2005, we had Katrina. So around those times, it's like when she's making her biggest shift and she's retrograding. So, and she's being discovered. So she was really, really active and making her voice known with environmental things. These are just two. I'm just giving you, again, a mini deep dive. And everyone knows Katrina was just a category 5 hurricane. July 14th, 2085. So today is July 14th, right? I swear this was not intended. This presentation was not intended to be today. Originally, I was supposed to be presenting in October. And I was giving a date in July and a date in October. And I'm like, I'll take October. This is at the beginning of the year. So these are scheduled out. And so I sat there, I'm like, I don't know if I can wait till October. Like, that's not my nature. I just don't know if I can. And so I'm like, hey, do you think that I can just have that one July date? And she's like, sure. So then I scheduled it. And then I was like, I wonder why it was open. Well, we because of Mars Uranus, obviously. So I was like, okay, we're gonna make the best of this for today, for this. And she wanted to be known. She wanted to be known. She wants everyone to remember this date. If you're in this presentation, you're gonna remember July 14th. Well, at least I think you will. And so this is a little bit more of a scale. These pictures are from Caltech, that you can see her so when she's her orbit, and so you could see she's really close to Earth, and that's why she's speeding up. She's getting closer. She's dipping through Gemini, and she will be the closest to Earth in 2085. And she will enter, oh my gosh, she's going to enter, if somebody wants to look, I totally forgot when I think it's 2048 that she enters Cancer. I can't remember. But anyways, the measurements are still being done, but it keeps shifting. But 2085 is about the time she's going to be the closest to Earth, and she will be in Cancer. So, we're seeing again a little bit of a correlation here with the Thema Mundi. Or yeah, the last time Sedna was over in Capricorn and Scorpio, with her timing, it correlates with the Ice Age. So, yeah. So this is just a little bit on that. Again, Cancer was known as the gateway of man. And I need to move this. And the gateway of mankind. And again, like I said, there's a close link between the Ice Age cycle. Her orbit is very, very slow. I think it's at like 11,513 years to go around the sun. So one Sedna cycle that's how long it takes. So again, 1 degree a year. And so I actually like to think of it as almost like a secondary progression of the sun. Like, so if you have, oh, my son's at 22 Virgo. So it's like, okay, so when I was, 3, or when I was 5 years old, if it conjuncts, you could see it moves, Sedna moves 1 degree a year. So anyways, we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm skipping in pure Medusa fashion. And again, Cancer to Capricorn means pertaining to turning or pertaining to change. So again, that cycle, those two, there's something about change. So I just want to keep that in our heads. And again, the concept of the Thema Mundi, the nativity of the cosmos, has varied interpretations and significance, again, from different philosophers, from whether it's from Ricus, Plato, Antiochus, the Egyptians, they all have different variations and interpretations of the Thema Mundi, which is the birth chart of the world, of the universe, it's said, and giving, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. That was actually a huge, another part of my presentation. I had to take it out. I actually chopped half of my presentation down. Again, pure, that's Astro Good, Mars Uranus last night. I literally cut half because yeah. So here's just a little bit. And so, yeah, it's the birth chart of the cosmos. And that's where a lot of our planets were given domiciles and the rulership schemes, et cetera, et cetera. So, and one of the late Mesopotamian or early Hellenistic astrologers, such as Berosus, believed that the conjunction of all the planets in the origin of Cancer and Capricorn indicated a period of creation and destruction in the world. So I want to keep this in mind because she's going to Cancer. When she was in Capricorn, we had the Ice Age. Now in Cancer, I think her voice is starting to talk to us about let's take care of our environment. And as I talk about her myth, we're going to look a little bit more. But this is just like little bits of everything. And so the myth and legend of Sedna, fairy tales are a direct connection to the archetypal content and how they are expressions of the unconscious. Carl Jung. I love quotes. If you've gone to my website, I have quotes everywhere. I have quotes throughout here. I love them. And then if you guys see this drawing in the back here, I love this little art here. My nephew drew that. He didn't use AI, he just used his iPad and he loves to draw. And so I was thinking, I had a bunch of drawing stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna ask him if he wants to draw me something. He's 10 and he's super. I always said since I saw his chart, I'm like, he's gonna build something. He's a Taurus rising and Cap Moon. So I'm like, I know he's gonna build something. And he loves to draw and he loves play the piano. So anyways, long story short, I had him draw this for me. And I told him about her story. I'm like, this is his story or her story, and I showed him a few pictures, and he's like, do you mind if I do my own? And so I'm going to show you a better picture in another slide. But that's just, I was so proud of it. He has Sedna at 22 Taurus, which is, I have Chiron at 22 Taurus. So his Sedna is conjunct my Chiron and trine my sun exactly. So I just was like, oh my gosh, perfect. So anyways, so the Song of Sedna. So I want to show you guys this book. It's probably backwards, but the Song of Sedna. I just got this book last week, and it came, I don't even know where it came from, but it took a while to get here. And I'm like, I wanted to get a children's book because I love children's books. I don't have children, but I love kids' books. And when I got it, I was like, oh, the book is used. I didn't know. I'm like, that's okay. And then so I'm like, I'm gonna look at the date. Well, um, this book was published in 1981. That was the year I was born. So the published date of this book has the same Sedna placement as I do. So, which is if you're born in 1981, more than likely you have Sedna at late degrees, 6 degrees, like very close to 7, or an early 7 degrees, like early minutes, I should say. So I thought that was another synchronicity that was beautiful. I'm like, oh, Astro good. And so I'm going to be telling you guys this story, and hopefully, and I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible just because of time, and I want to be able to get to the charts. And so Sedna, like I said earlier, is a female sea spirit, sometimes known as the goddess of the sea. And she is an Inuit daughter of a hunter, and they lived in the Arctic Ocean, or up in the Arctic in the very, very cold area. And in many stories, Sedna has a dog, and many she doesn't. And in this story, she does. And all these pictures, by the way, are by Daniel San Sauci, which who is the artist of this book. So I want to give proper credit. And so her father wanted her to get married, and she didn't. She didn't want to get married. She resisted. And so he said, I'm going to send you suitors. So he kept sending her suitors, and she kept rejecting them. And finally, one day a man came and he promised her everything, and to come live in his land of the birds. And she wanted to say yes because that was the man of her dreams. That's who she had seen in her dreams, in her actual imaginal world. And but there was something in her gut that told her not to go. And her dog didn't want to be around them. And so she decided to go live with him in the island of the birds, and her dog didn't go with her. And so her father and her dog saw her and her new husband go live in the island of the birds. And if you look, he had a umiak, I believe it's called, their boats or kayaks. And so they went to go live in their land of the birds, and her husband went to go hunt, and he forgot his lucky amulet. And so Sedna went to go follow him. And when he was out, he turned into a bird. He shapeshifted into a bird, which scared her because she felt betrayed that he had lied to her and he was not a human. So she went back home and just started crying. And her father hadn't heard from her in a long time. And so he went out to go look for her and saw her crying. And he told her to come back and live with him again and leave her husband. And so she did. So they set off on their boats, and the father took Sedna back to their house. But on their way to back home, Sedna's husband got very upset because he realized she left. So he got back on his boat. And if you notice, it's a serpent boat. He had a boat that turned into a serpent. And so he went out to the oceans to go look for her. And so he created a storm with his wings. So every time he opened his wings, he created a storm in the oceans. And so he saw finally Sedna and her father, and he went over the boat and tried to scare them off and created more thunderstorms in the ocean. And so the husband said, "Give me back Sedna." And the father said, "No." So her husband made a bigger storm in the oceans. And so finally, the father decided to throw Sedna overboard because it was either him or her. So he threw her overboard, and Sedna held on by dear life onto her boat. She just held on. But her husband was not giving in and continued to make a storm. And the father decided to cut off every single one of her fingers off so that she would just fall. Finally, Sedna surrendered and she let go of the boat just as he was cutting off his fingers. As she went down into the ocean, each of her fingers turned into an animal. There were sea otters, there was sea lions and whales and sharks. Any kind of ocean animal turned into um into a sea animal. But she got protection, and her fingers kind of gave her a surrendering faith, and she just fell down to the depths of the ocean. And now Sedna lives at the bottom of the ocean, and her long black hair just sits there. And when humans are not being really good to our environment, she gets mad and she gets angry when you're not taking care of our earth and our cosmos. So what she does is she doesn't do this out of revenge, but she does this to teach humans about nature and to take care of nature. So she withholds all the ocean food for the hunters. So no one in the Arctic, no one can eat because Sedna withholds all of the oceans, and she gets them locked in her hair. So in this picture, you can see well, not all the animals, but you could see things getting locked in her hair, the oceans. And so in order for the Inuit to get food again, the shamans have to go do a journey and take a journey. It is a spiritual and this is a ritual that they continue to do. They take a journey to Sedna to go take care of her down at the depths of the ocean. They comb her hair. And as they comb her hair, all of the animals get released so that they can eat. And so then again, she's happy again. And so she has to continue to remind humanity to be good to our animals. And so lately you see her active with our oceans and our environments. And she just wants us to take care of the oceans, and she will take care of us. So that is Sedna. Here's a better picture of my nephew's drawing. Oops. And so, whatever moral you find in this story, it's up to you. The beauty of storytelling is that there can be more than one message to be found in between the lines. However, in Greenland, they still use the story of Sedna as a reminder to hunt responsibly and sustainable and to live in balance with nature. And so again, in Greenland, this is very, very common till today, um, to walk around and tell stories.